Hey guys, it's Christina. Welcome back. So as you saw by the title of today's video, I'm going to give you guys book recs on books you should read on a rainy day. And it's in fact not a rainy day, but I've been craving a rainy day, so I was like, oh, I should just do this video. Make myself feel that kind of feeling. I think rainy days are the best days to be reading a book, whatever kind of book you want, but especially these make you feel that warmth, and I feel like they scratch that itch that you've been meaning to scratch when you were reading while it rains. Like the sound and the vibe of the book, they just combine together. So the first book we have is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, and this follows Hazel and Gus and their journey with cancer and their relationship and how they manage it throughout the book. I read this when I was younger, well, probably when I shouldn't have read it because I couldn't really understand what was going on in a way, but then I watched the movie and I cried for like 15 minutes. So I have an attachment to this book, and I read other John Green books which I think are equally as beautiful as The Fault in Our Stars. I think he's a really good author, and I think he quit writing, which is kind of sad, but oh well. John Green, if you're watching this, write a sequel or something, I don't know. The next book we have is Normal People by Sally Rooney. You've heard me talk about this book before. It's about Marianne and Connell who meet in high school, and she's kind of a loner, he's kind of popular, and they both have things going on at home, so they kind of have a secret relationship. It's very toxic, but it follows them throughout their lives. There's no necessarily plot, it just follows their life. And if you go into this book, do know there's no quotation marks. I know it can bother a lot of people, but besides that, I think it's beautifully written as well. But yeah, this one's one of my favorites, so I'm gonna keep recommending it on almost every video. The next book is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This is a mystery thriller. This is about a woman whose husband recently died, and she's going back to their house on the lake, and she notices that a new couple's moving in the house across the lake. And she notices weird things happening, and it evolves from there. I'm trying to describe the books without spoiling too much. No, without spoiling at all, so we'll see how I do. But this one's one of my favorite mystery thriller books. I think Riley Sager is great with those, especially with the thrillerish part. Do keep in mind he has more of a paranormal sense of writing and style of writing, so if you don't like that kind of vibe, don't read it. Then I have Love at First Book by Jen McKinley, I think I want to say. This book I recently read, but I cannot remember for the life of me the main characters' names, like both of them. It's basically this girl who gives up her job and moves to Ireland to work at a bookstore so she can be her favorite author's assistant, and she low-key kind of has a crush for her boss, and she lives in Ireland. And I think the way the setting of Ireland is described is perfect for a rainy day. It's just so beautiful, and the way the setting is described is perfect for a rainy day. The next book is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This follows Magnolia and BJ, but also the rest of their friend group on the side, sort of. It's giving Addicted / Callaway Sisters series, but make them British. It's very toxic and very miscommunication. If you don't like that, don't read it. But if you like Callaway Sisters series, if you like Gossip Girl, you're gonna really enjoy this and fall in the same line. Since it's like in England and the previous book was in Ireland, that the gray weather follows these books, especially because Magnolia Parks has very sad moments, so I think it would follow with the rainy weather. The next book is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is a fantasy, and I'm terrible with names, so I'm not gonna try and remember these characters' names. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember her name. I'm gonna look it up. First book follows Evangeline and Jax, and basically she loves this man and he gets married to her stepsister, so she asks a spirit, I think they were called, I forgot what they were called, to stop the wedding, and turns out he did in fact stop the wedding, but he turned them all into stone. So to break the curse, she turned herself into stone, and then she became like this hero, and the storyline that follows it was really good, and it's gonna be very worth it. The next book is Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman, and I want to say trigger warnings for this one. This is my sister sister's fiance trope, but that's not even the trigger part. They do get kidnapped, both of them, and they start a bond over that, and then you get to see both of them deal with their trauma and also make their relationship evolve over that. Next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This one's a TikTok classic, and I love that book. It's about Pip, who is investigating a past case in her town where somebody was falsely accused of a murder, and she wants to find out who the real murderer was. The next book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I just want to say first, I did not like this book. I did not like it, but I do think other people can connect with this because it's nonfiction. I didn't connect with it, but I think other people can. And it's a life lesson sort of book, and I think on a rainy day, like, that's the perfect kind of book. It just has that vibe. Just her going through her 20s and her problems with boys and her friends and jobs and stuff like that. The next one is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. I'm sure you guys heard of this book too. It's about two best friends who are in love with each other, and this is based in like high school. She's a little childish, but they're in love with each other. Let's just say this book has a trope of right person, wrong time. The next book is another nonfiction, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I love this book. I think it kind of hurt because everything you thought Disney and Nickelodeon was kind of gets shattered, but in a good way, because then you get to see the reality and what she was put through, especially with her mom. And it's basically about her life story, about her childhood and into adulthood, and I think wrote it very beautifully and it was very raw. The next book is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't like repeating authors, but I repeated her further down in this list. But Ninth House is basically about those secret societies and these like Ivy League schools, especially Yale. And our main character gets called to come to one of the secret societies, and it's all about magic and, you know, teleporting, I'm pretty sure, if I remember it right, and like doing rituals and that kind of stuff. Also check the trigger warnings for this one. It can be a little bit gruesome, but if you like that magical secret society kind of elements, you should definitely read it. Then the 13th book is Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins, and this book is about a woman who passes away and her husband is obviously grieving. She prepared all these letters for him to help him get closure and to get back to the person he was before her death, and before her she's trying to get him to, you know, even like shower or get groceries for himself, to finally accepting that he can date other people, and he does find somebody. It's this whole book about grieving, and it was very beautiful. It wasn't my favorite, but I think it does very well, especially the grieving of a spouse is very different from other kinds of grievances, and I think it's very well done, and I think the letters were my favorite part of this book, to be honest. Then we have Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. This is a second chance romance. I don't remember it much, but I know our two main characters went to college together and they became friends, and a little bit more than friends, I'm pretty sure, but then stuff happened and they stopped talking. And then fast forward, I'm pretty sure he's married or in a relationship at least, or he just got divorced, something like that, and he sees our female main character in the subway in New York City. He even goes into Reddit to look for her. It's their second chance love story, and I really like this one. Also because I was set in New York City, anything that's set in New York City always gets at least half a point more in my ratings. Then the next book, like I said, it's another Leigh Bardugo book. It's Six of Crows. Six of Crows are these like 6 outlaws, I guess you could say. 6 characters that come together, and some of them hate each other, some of them have a past together, some of them might be experiencing enemies to lovers, but they're basically, I forgot what the point is. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. I'll also put the description of the book somewhere here if you need it. Next is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and if you haven't heard about this book, it became a big production, a big movie. But basically we have this outsider in a town in South Carolina. She kind of gets bullied because she didn't grow up in the safest household, and she never really went to school. And then she kind of falls in love with this man who's higher class than she is, and then suddenly he disappears, and there's this other guy, and there's a whole case. It's kind of a murder mystery / romance, and I really liked it. And like, some people might love it, some people might hate it, but I really enjoyed it, especially the movie, and the plot twist is crazy, at least for me. I don't really read thrillers that often, even though I love them. So next book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria Schwab, and I read this when I started reading, and so do not blame me for my memory being bad. I mean, honestly, the book I just finished earlier today, can't even remember their names. So, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue starts with Addie, where she is meant to be married off and she doesn't want to, so she goes to this place. I'm pretty sure that it's like the spirits, and she asks if she's able to run away and get away from this life that she doesn't want. They're like, okay, but in exchange, you're gonna live forever. And nobody's gonna remember her. So it's her going through, I'm pretty sure this starts in the Middle Ages in France, and then it flash forwards to present time. And I think this one, it is a slower book, I have to say. Remember, it's a slower book, but the ending is very worth it. Then we have The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I'm just gonna say, first of all, this is a slow burn. By that I mean they're not gonna kiss until 75% in, probably, at best. But here we have this football player and his assistant, who he is kind of dry towards her. I don't think he's rude, but he's kind of like one word answer kind of person. And she's like, okay, I'm fed up, I'm quitting. So she quits, and then so he plays football in the US, but he's Canadian and his visa's about to expire. So he's like, no, don't leave, please marry me, please fake a marriage with me. And it's basically a fake marriage, fake dating, fake marriage book, and it's great. It's one of her best. Then I don't want to promote this author but if you had to read one of her books, please read Verity by Colleen Hoover. It is creepy, it is sinister, and I loved every second of it. So Verity is about this woman called Verity, who is an author of these kind of books, and she gets in a car crash and becomes unconscious. So we hire Lowen. Lowen gets hired by Verity's husband, Jeremy, to finish writing her series because they both had the same kind of style, and then creepy stuff starts happening around the house. That's basically the plot. And this is one of my first books I read, so I also very enjoyed it because it was one I had nothing else to compare it to. But I think if you're into thriller and that kind of stuff, again, you should read it. And last but not least, Say You Swear by M. Brandy. This is peak Wattpad, like when it comes to tropes, but it starts as a brother's best friend kind of thing, and there's sort of a love triangle moment. Some people might think it's bad, and I see why you can think it's bad, but just please read it. So those are all the 20 books I have to recommend for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye!